So very good afternoon to all of you. So today we are going to discuss again a very important topic, CCTV evidence. CCTV evidence, though it is captured in the form of a video, but it's a very important piece of evidence and it has so many technical issues. So now I have seen so many cases where even when the CCTV evidence is a genuine one, still it lacks reliability by the court, either due to the admissibility or the authenticity. So let us understand it. Let me share my PPT. So in this session, we are going to discuss what is CCTV, what is DVR and its working, the evidentiary value of the CCTV videos, identification of the person in the video or audio. What are the requirements? How a person can be identified? Whether it requires identification by witness only, or whether court can identify on its own, and what would be the challenges during trial. So these are the issues which we are going to discuss. First, coming to the very basic thing, what is the CCTV, right? So basically, this is the entire framework of the CCTV. So basically, we have the CCTV camera through which the image is being captured. After capturing the image, it is being sent to the DVR, and we can see in the LCD. So this transmission may be through the analog signal, it may be through the digital signal. And in both the cases, it would make a difference. Why it would make a difference? Because you see, in a number of cases now, during a cross-examination, one of the challenge which comes from the cross-examination which is done by the defense. And in a number of cases, during cross-examination, the question are being asked regarding whether it is hacked or possible hack, or sometimes the suggestion comes that it has been hacked. So that's why understanding the framework is very important. Another part is the framework which you are looking here in the form of comprising three components. But if we go to the corporate framework, it is in a different manner. In the corporate, first would be the CCTV camera, then would be the LCD monitor, and then would be the DVR. So that sequence would change in case of the corporate or big setup. Now coming to the what the CCTV camera is, which we need to understand. Though these are the issues which are technical, but it make a lot of difference during the cross-examination, during the challenge of authenticity in the court. So what it contains, number one, it contains the lens through which the light comes. After the lens, you have a chip, CMOS chip, which is called as a sensor. So sensor capture the light, create the image in analog, then it transmit it to the DVR. So we can have a two type of framework. One is the analog framework, second is the digital framework. In case of the analog camera, it record the image, then it will send the signal over a coaxial cable to a DVR. So it will go through the cable. Then in the DVR will convert the image from analog to the digital signal. So ultimately, it would be saved as a digital image. But that conversion would be done by the DVR. Now come to the second part, when we are using the digital camera. So what happens? The initial chip, after the sensor, there is an additional chip which is called as a CCD chips. So what this chip do? It converts the analog image into a digital image. So in case of digital camera, the image is converted into a digital image at the stage of camera only. And then it is being transferred through the RJ45 cable, optic fiber, or even through the wireless or Wi-Fi in the DVR. So there are a number of ways by which it can be transferred. So why we need to understand whether it is a digital or whether it is analog? Because in case of analog, there is no question of hacking. But there can, in case of digital, there can be a probability of hacking. Then we have a different type of cameras. One is the IP camera or wireless camera. So in case of IP camera, there is an additional chip after the CMOS by which we can connect all the CCTV through the IP connectivity. right? So it will use the IP address and other standard protocol, and all would be connected in a network, though the transmission of the signal may be through the wire or wireless protocol. It can be Wi-Fi also, right? Second is the daylight or infrared camera. So now we have the cameras which use the infrared transmission. So particularly it caters to the need where the lighting conditions are poor. So it sends the infralight and it captures the image. So how does it make a difference? Particularly when the question would come during cross-examination or in the court regarding the lighting condition. So then it will make a lot of difference to say that we are using the ordinary camera, because the ordinary camera will show you the actual light. In case of the infrared camera, it will show you the refined light using the infrared rays. Third is the manual or auto iris camera. So how does it make a difference, and what auto iris camera does? It opens its curvature depending upon the light, right? So then object looks more closer. It automatically adjusts its focal length to take the clear picture of that particular image. So how does it make a difference during cross-examination or in the court? In case of auto iris camera or the simple camera, so the difference would be, in case of a simple camera, depending upon the focal length of that camera, you can make a guess that how much would be the distance of a particular object from the camera. But in case of auto iris camera, because it will adjust itself according to the light, so that making that guess regarding the distance of the object would be something which would be difficult or challenging. So these factors should be brought to the notice of the court whenever the CCTV evidence is being relied upon. Then coming to the how you can install this CCTV. So you can do in a two way. One is the DVR, which is a dedicated device. So you can see this is a dedicated device. Second, we have this a chip which can be affixed in a computer, and again we can operate the CCTV from this chip. So basically we can divide them into two categories. Category number one is when the DVR is a embedded device, and the second is when it is a PC based. So as of now, we normally use the embedded device, right? How does it make a difference if you are using the embedding device or the PC based? In case of the embedded device, it has a limited functionality. For example, if you want to alter any image, you need a software to be installed. That functionality is not available in the embedded one. So if a particular CCTV footage is coming from an embedded device, and that fact is brought to the notice of the court that this is the embedded device, and the CCTV footage was recorded in this device, then based on its functionality, because no software can be installed into this particular device to alter the image, so then court can draw the inference regarding the genuineness of the CCTV footage by virtue of section 114 of the Evidence Act. While in case of PC, in a computer, you can install the device and you can alter the image. So that's how it makes a lot of difference. So while if the police is seizing, police must mention the device in which it is recorded, make and model, so that court can draw the cognizance of the fact that there is no possibility to alter the CCTV footage. So what are the DVR components? So first component is the motherboard. Second is the real-time clock, CMOS. So it's very important because in a number of CCTV footages, I have observed during cross-examination that their time clock does not matches with the real time. The reason is because the time which is into the CMOS have not been set up. So that factor need to be taken into consideration. If it has not been set up, then the IO must make a recording of the fact that the real time have not been set up and it was working on a default time. Third is the channel card. So these channel cards are there depending upon how much CCTV are connecting to that particular device. Then we have the network interface card through which there is a connectivity with all the CCTV. Then we have the hard disk in which the data is being maintained. Now, the important thing which we need to understand in case of CCTV and how it is different from the computer. In case of a computer, your operating system through which you operate the computer is within your hard disk. But in case of the CCTV, the chip which contains the operating system for the functioning of the entire device is into the motherboard, right? So that means in the hard disk there would be no operating system, no software. So entire data, if you want to take, you have to take from the chip. So that means if you have to see what is the real-time clock, how many channels are connected, what is the other settings, you need to have the chip, and in other words, you need to have that device. Without device, because chip is the part of the device, without device, you would not have that information available with you. Now, see, this is one of the case study, particularly in case of a robbery where the CCTV footage was taken by the police and it was produced in the court. But during cross-examination, when we look into the metadata of that footage, it was of a different date and time as compared to the actual date and time of robbery. And in some cases, you will see that one timestamp is running on the video itself. So one need to make sure that the time which is into the CMOS, time which is into the CCTV must match with the real time. And if it does not match, then how much is the difference? That must be recorded at the first opportunity, either in the seizure memo or in the evidence of the affidavit or certificate under section 65. So you can do it at all the three stages. So functioning of the DVR, so we have the operating system which is embedded into the your motherboard. Then we have the interface card through which we operate the this entire system. Third is the file system. So one of the biggest challenge in the CCTV is the file system is the proprietary system. So that means you may not be able to access using the Windows, using the Linux, using the Apple operating system. So you need that particular system. So that's why the CCTV evidence has a more challenge as compared to the computer. Because in case of computer, we can see that almost 99% of the computer falls into these three different categories. Either it is of the Windows, second it is of the Linux, or it is of the Apple. But in case of the CCTV, you will see that every model may have its own proprietary hardware system, proprietary file system. And once it is a proprietary file system, you may not be able to access it using the Windows or Linux or the Apple. Then you require the same DVR to access that particular hard disk. So then we have a storage medium, that is our hard disk. Then we have the codec standard. So codec standard is being used for the compression. Again, this codec standard can also be the proprietary one. So these two are the big challenges with the CCTV evidence. So while collecting the data, one must take note of that. So the challenge of the proprietary file system. So what is the threat here? When the file system is a different one, which you cannot access, then if you will use the forensic software for parsing the data, for analyze the data, for the purpose of e-discovery, it would not be accessible. It will only show that the file system is unrecognizable, right? And in fact, the hard disk would ask for the initiation. So it would be detected as a uninitiated hard disk. So the moment you will initiate it, the entire data would be deleted. You would not be able to find the standard file signature of the file system, and there would be no boundaries into the entire hard disk regarding the file, regarding the data which is there. So basically, you cannot access it. So that is one of the biggest challenges. Then while recording, so there are other challenges. One is regarding the compression. So they may be using the different type of compression, H264, MPEG for. So why I'm talking about the compression, why it is relevant, and why it is a challenge during the evidence. So, for example, now if you have a DVR, right, and you are exporting a video file out of it to the some external medium, for example, on a DVD or on a in a pen drive. So the compression which is into the hard disk may be different, and when you export it outside the hard disk, then it would be different. So that means size of both the file, one which is available in the DVR, one which is available on the pen drive would be different. So in one of the case, when I put a cross examination to the cross examination regarding the size of the file, because size which was being shown in the forensic report from the DVR was different, but actual size of the file was different. So I was not able to get the answer from the forensic expert, right? And in such a case, if the suggestion is being given that it is a tempered file, because both the file have the different size, then challenging the genuineness of that particular CCTV footage is possible. And the prosecution may not be able to convince the court that it is the same file which is there. Second challenge which comes is now we have the CCTV devices which record, which has the CCTV camera with motion sensor recording. So motion sensor recording means, see, when the CCTV camera is installed, it is recording everything which comes before it. But here one of the big problem is when you preserve it, it takes a lot of storage space. So now the new CCTV camera, they are more efficient and they have the functionality that they will continue to record at a different interval, but they will not continuously record it. They will only record it when there is something which some object which comes before the camera. So that means if we take the example of night, so it would be recording after every half an hour, and meanwhile only it will record when there is some object just before the camera. So now it again is one of the big challenge during the cross-examination if such a camera is being used. Why it is a challenge? So I tell you, in one of the murder case, when the CCTV footage was run, there was no video for 1 hour in between the footage. And also there was no cut, there was no manipulation, but the defense has alleged for the forgery and manipulation. And prosecution failed to answer. And the real reason was that it was a motion sensor camera. And because for almost 1 hour, there was no object which comes before the camera, and therefore the camera, there was no recording done by that particular CCTV. So that is the feature of the DVR itself. So if the police is seizing the DVR, they must record the fact that whether it is a motion sensor camera or a infrared camera, or what are the specific features relating to that particular camera or DVR. So it makes a lot of difference during the proving of evidence in the court of law. So how the seizure can be done of the CCTV? So there are three ways. Number one, seizure of the hard disk. But I told you that it may contain the storage data in a way that it would not be accessible. Second, seizure of the entire DVR. Third is the seizure of the exported footage. So what I would recommend, that hard disk may not be of any use without DVR. So the best way is to seize the entire DVR with the hard disk, or you can seize the CCTV footage only. But now with the judgment of Arjun Pandita Rao, there is a new challenge which have been there for the CCTV evidence in the court, where the court have stated that original need to be preserved. And here the challenge would be that you may have taken a footage, but if the original is not preserved at the time of the evidence, if the question is asked to the witness, can you produce the original? If the witness says that I cannot produce the original, or original have been deleted, then there would be challenge to the authenticity of that particular electronic evidence. So if the hard disk is seized, please also seize the DVR. Without DVR, hard disk may not be of any use. Please also note down the make model of the DVR with the file system, because in some cases where the either DVR may become dysfunctional or DVR have not been seized, still there are way, if we know which is the proprietary file system, even later on you can buy the DVR of the same make and model, and again you can access that particular hard disk, that particular CCTV footage. So the video extraction, how to extract the video. So there are two ways by which you can extract. One is, in case of DVR, you can directly take the footage from the DVR. So depending upon the make and model, there are different options. In some of the DVR, even there is an option that you can connect the external DVD drive and you can directly write the file from the DVR to that particular DVD. That is the one. Because what would be the benefit? It will not change the metadata. For example, if you will transfer it on the computer, then you will transfer it on the DVD, it will change the metadata. Second is, now most of the DVR also provide the downloading through the remote utility. So they have a software, you can access it remotely and you can also download. You can also use that functionality, but in any case, you need to mention the process in the seizure memo as far as possible. Because later on, at the time of the cross-examination, there may be n number of questions on this issue. And if they are not being properly explained as to how the data was extracted, the authenticity of that particular data would become one of the challenge. So the preferred type of extraction would be DVD. First would be CD or DVD. Why? Because it is a write protect media. So once you have written something on the DVD, it cannot be altered. So it helps in maintaining the chain of custody, and even during cross-examination, if there is any issue as to the authenticity of the data, same can always be explained from the by giving explaining that it is a write protect media. You can also download in the USB drive, but in the USB drive, it is possible to alter or delete. And even if you compute the hash value, in case of the DVD, hash value will not change. But in case of the USB drive, whenever you will connect, it will change the hash value. So if you will connect it without write protect, hash value would be automatically changed. So the first thing should be directly from connecting the DVD writer and recording it on a DVD. That should be the first choice. Second should be directly connecting a USB drive with the DVR and transferring the file. Third, using the remote utility. So if we can use the first process of directly connecting, it would be very easy to explain the same in court of law as compared to the remote utility. And if the entire process, whenever the extraction is being done, if we can do the screen recording or we can make the video, that will again enhance the credibility of the entire process and also the authenticity of that particular evidence. Timestamp, we need to keep in mind that whenever we are exporting it, we must look into what is the timestamp when the data is being copied in external medium, whether it may be in DVD, whether it may be in a pen drive. And if there is any substantial change, we must account for it. We must mention it in the seizure memo that because it is copied using a computer, that time of creation have changed. So the reason is, now this time of creation is one of the metadata which is covered under Section 7 of the Information Technology Act, which is compulsorily required to be maintained. So it can, if the data is changed, so that means the metadata is changed, and it would amount to non-compliance of Section 7 of the Information Technology Act. So now you can see this particular footage, an interesting footage. So this is from one of the CBI case. And in this particular footage, you can see there are 3 timestamps on this particular footage, right? And 2 different dates. So now you can compare it with a document that you have a original document created and it contains 3 different time, 2 different dates. What could be its value? But can we say it is a forge? No, it would not be forged. But since the prosecution is not able to explain why there are 3 date and time stamp, probably it would not be admissible. And even if it is admissible, then proving the authenticity would be a bigger challenge. So what are these 3 date and time? So first time is put up by the camera. Second time was put up by the IP chip, which is just behind the camera. Third stamp is put up by the DVR. So normally what happens when while setting the CCTV system, normally a person who knows the technology very well, who is efficient, either they will sync all the 3 times or they will deactivate the 2 times. And what happened in this case of this footage, which have been taken from a 5-star hotel, all the 3 timestamps were working and they were not synced. So that's why we are able to see 3 different times. And now one of the another challenge which is into this footage is that this footage, when it was taken on a DVD and original hard disk was not seized. So since the prosecution have not seen the original hard disk, original DVR, they cannot bridge the gap as to what is the reason why there are 3 timestamps. And even if they seize the original hard disk, still it may not be possible because the 2 times are coming from the camera and IP chip. Both are part of the CCTV camera, the device which we see. So probably in such case, if it is challenged by the defense, probably it would be difficult to prove the genuineness or authenticity of this particular evidence. Then regarding the hash value, we need to keep in mind that in order to prove a particular electronic evidence, the hash value must be computed at 4 stages and it should be equal at all the 4 stages. Number 1, when the original evidence is captured. So that means when you are taking that particular footage, you must compute the hash value then and there. And if you are seizing the hard disk, you must compute the hash value of the hard disk. Second is when we are making the copy. Third, when the forensic examination of that particular CCTV footage or hard disk is being done. Fourth, when the forensic examination is completed. So if the hash value is computed at all the 4 stages, then it would be meaningful. So basically, if it is computed between 2 stages, for example, if it is computed between stage 1 and 2, not thereafter, so that means its authenticity would be proved only between the stage 1 and stage 2. Now coming to the legal part. So when we talk about the CCTV evidence in the court, what's the object? So object may be identification of the person who have committed some offense, creating the narrative for the visual narrative for the event, reconstruction of the scene of crime, and the fourth is the documentary evidence. The reason is CCTV footage is a electronic record, and in the eyes of law, it is a document within the meaning of Section 3 of the Section 3 of the Evidence Act. So for identification techniques, we have a 3 technique for identifying the person in the video or CCTV footage. One is the facial morphological comparison. So it would be comparison of the shape, appearance, location of the facial features, like the nose bridge, nostrils, or ear lobes. Second is our photoanthrometric analysis, right? So it would involve the facial measurement of the soft tissues, landmark, and bone structure. So basically, it will compare the bone structure and the soft tissue landmarks. Third is the photo superimposition. It would comprise of overlapping of 2 aligned images and comparing them. So then how it would be done? So a photograph of the accused would be taken and that would be superimposed on the photograph or image in the CCTV footage. So these are the 3 techniques which are being used for identification. CCTV evidence is one of the best evidence. So in this judgment, Tommaso Bruno versus State of UP, where the case was of the murder and murder was committed at first floor of the hotel. And every entry which goes to the hotel was covered by the CCTV camera, right? But the prosecution have taken catch hold of the CCTV camera, but they have not relied upon it. Accused was convicted by the trial court. Conviction was upheld by the High Court, but when the matter went to the Supreme Court asked about the CCTV footage. And when the prosecution failed to give any satisfactory answer, the Supreme Court observed that CCTV evidence is one of the best evidence, and if it is being withheld, then the court can draw the adverse inference under section 114G of the Evidence Act. So now, in case you are on the defense side and a CCTV footage goes in your favor, the moment the investigation starts, you must give in writing to the police that this is a CCTV footage which is installed there, from where you can catch hold of and investigate the true fact, and my innocence can be proved. Still, if the police does not seize it, court can always draw the adverse inference. Now, looking upon what's the value of this CCTV footage evidence. So, when we talk about the photograph taken by person, or when we talk about the photograph which is captured by something like the CCTV, a fixed camera. So, photograph, when it is captured by a person, it can be deceptive. The reason is that the person would capture the photograph from his own angle. He may have a prejudice. So, he will capture the photograph in a manner that supports his case. He may not show what is the adverse or what is the in favor of the opposite party. While when there is a camera like CCTV camera, when it captures the image or the video, it would have an objectivity, because there is no person who is interfering into the process, and everything is being done in an independent manner. So while proving the evidence in the court, we have the two theories which works in this domain. One is the pictorial theory. So pictorial theory says that when the photographic evidence is captured by witness, so then for proving it, the witness must come to the witness box. And when the witness gives a testimony regarding that photographic evidence, then it becomes admissible. So then you have the two components. One, the witness who is capturing the photograph. Second, the photograph. So you have two components. Now coming to the CCTV, it is being termed as a silent witness theory. So in the first case, because that it has a two component, one which is the photograph, second the person who is capturing that particular photograph. So both have the independent evidentiary value, because the person who is capturing the photograph, his testimony is also admissible by virtue of section 60 of the Evidence Act. In case of silent witness theory, which is applicable to the CCTV footage, where the camera is the only witness, there is no person who is capturing. That applies to the CCTV footage. So the CCTV footage are being referred as a silent witness, because there is no person who is speaking. The footage itself speaks, right? So where there is no other person, then the international law says that we need to do the forensic examination of that particular footage to prove its authenticity. Because in case of a witness is there, the opposite party has the opportunity to do the cross-examination of the witness, even to break the authenticity of that footage. But in case there is only footage, there is no witness, so that facility may not be available. But there is one big risk with these video or the CCTV footage, that is called as a white coat effect. So what the white coat effect is? So I give you an example. Suppose there is a CCTV footage showing in a case of murder, and which has captured a person committing a murder, right? Now, let us, for the sake of argument, assume that that have been manipulated, altered, and subsequently even the forensic lab has given the opinion that it has not been altered. Now, the question or the challenge which arises in such case, that the taking into consideration the nature of the evidence, which is one of the best evidence, which because of being in the audio-visual form, convinces the court there would be no possibility, or it would be very difficult for the opposite party to rebut that evidence, even by producing any of the traditional evidence. So that means if there is on one side, there is a video showing the murder being committed by a person, can the opposite party produce any material to show that the murder had not been committed by the accused? It would be very difficult for the opposite party to convince the court that that this particular image is not correct or video is manipulated. Identification of the person in the video. So it can be done in a four manner. First, if the video is clear, court can compare it with the accused present in the court. Second, if the witness know the accused very well, witness can identify. Third, if a witness does not know but spends substantial time in viewing and analyzing, for example, IO does not know the person in the CCTV footage, but subsequent to the registration of the case, during investigation, if he has spent a lot of time with the accused, even he can identify that this is the same person. Fourth is that a forensic process can be used, which forensic can be done by the qualified expert using the three techniques which we have discussed in the book. So they can use that forensic technique for mapping the person or for identifying of the person. So particularly this technique is normally used when picture is not clear. So in case of the distorted and blurry photograph or video, vague similarity cannot become the basis of convictions. That is on its own until there is some other corroborating material before the court. Second, when we see the CCTV footage, now these are the observations by Division Bench of Delhi High Court in the judgment of Kishan Tripathi versus State. When we see the CCTV footage, we are in the same position as that of a witness who has seen the occurrence, though crime had not occurred at that time when the recording was played, but earlier. So court has stated that court itself can identify the accused from the CCTV footage. So challenges during trial, one would be of the hacking. So that can be easily resolved if it is an embedded one. So one must take into account that. Second is the modification of the CCTV footage. So one is the format. So the format of the footage which is being taken from the DVR must be original. So that is one of the requirements under section 7 of the ITA. Then we have the timestamp. Again, it become a part of metadata. Again, it is one of the requirements under section 7 of the ITA. Then we need to take into account the proprietary format, and in case of an extracted frame, because the extracted frame can be easily manipulated, the forensic is something which must be done. And hash value must be computed to prove the integrity of that particular evidence during the chain of custody. So we have these two sections which are very important, section 4, section 7. Again, section 4 talks about that the original need to be maintained. When we come to the section 7, which talks about the retention of electronic record, again, clause A speaks about that the information should remain accessible for a subsequent reference. So that means original should exist. Second clause B speaks about the format. The format should be the original one. So that is the legal requirement. That is not a matter of choice. Third is the metadata. Maintain detail is facilitating the identification of origin, destination, date and time of dispatch, and receipt of electronic report. So what do you mean by the metadata? If we take the example of this image, when we compute its EXIF data, so its metadata would comprise of the date, file name, camera, its frame rate per second, its resolution. So that is a very important evidence through which we can connect an image with the original device. So whether the original is required to be maintained. So one is it is required by section 4 of the ITA. Then second, it is required by section 7 of the ITA. Third, we have the judgment of Arjun Pandita Rao, the recent judgment, where the court has stated that original must be preserved because if the accused want to challenge the genuineness of the certificate under section 65B, he cannot do if the original is missing. So the court have also directed, particularly in case of CDR, that the CDR must be maintained by the service provider until the trial, until the matter is under trial, so that the court can summon the record and can verify the authenticity of the CDR. So same principle applied to the CCTV. So that means if a person have produced the CCTV footage, the accused must have the opportunity to call for the original CCTV or the DVR and to verify whether it is genuine or not. So original CCTV footage that is into the hard disk would be admissible under Section 62 of the Evidence Act. Secondary copy would be admissible under Section 65B of the Evidence Act, and it need to be accompanied by certificate under Section 65B of the Evidence Act. But the Section 65B only deals with the admissibility. It does not deal with the genuineness, authenticity. So authenticity also need to be proved. For that, the best way to prove the authenticity of the CCTV footage is by way of the forensic examination. So initially we have the judgment of Anwar PV, where the court has stated that the certificate under Section 65B is mandatory. Now, in the latest judgment of Arjun Pandita Rao, the Supreme Court has again upheld the previous judgment of Anwar PV and have stated that for the secondary evidence, certificate under Section 65B is mandatory. It cannot be substituted by the statement of witness, and in criminal cases, certificate under Section 65B should be given before the start of trial. And if the certificate under Section 65B is not available, the proceeding under Section 91 CRPC at the stage of investigation, under Section 311 CRPC at the stage of trial, and under Section 165 Evidence Act at the stage of evidence can be taken to get the certificate under Section 65B. To obtain the certificate under Section 65B from the concerned person. Oral testimony as to the 65B, the court has stated that no oral testimony is permitted, certificate has to be there. Stage of filing the certificate, in Anwar PV, the court has stated that it should be there at the time of evidence. In the Kundan Singh, the court, Division Bench of Delhi High Court has stated that it can be filed at any stage. And Arjun Pandita Rao, the court has stated that as far as possible, it should be given before the trial. But in appropriate case, where the recovery is done through the court proceeding under Section 91 CRPC, 311 CRPC, or 165 Evidence Act, it can be filed later on. Who cannot give the certificate under Section 65B? Person who is not in possession of the original cannot give. When certificate cannot be given, if the original is destroyed, certificate under Section 65B cannot be given. Objection to the inadmissibility. So if there is no certificate under Section 65B, the objection can be taken, and that objection falls into the category of the mode of proof. So mode of proof means that the objection has to be taken then and there when the evidence is being exhibited or during cross-examination. So these are the some of the prominent issues relating to the CCTV footage. So if you have any of the question, so then we can discuss. So you can unmute yourself and you can ask the question if there is any question from anyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, good afternoon.
My name is Ayush, sir. So I had a question regarding when a CCTV footage of for example, a crime has been committed in a particular house number 1 and house number 2, and the CCTV footage are taken from house number 3 or house number 4. So what is the in legal context, how will the court interpret it that the recordings of a third place or
here the question which you are asking is of the relevancy. So relevancy has to be explained to the explained by the prosecution. I give you an example. In number of cases where the accused has committed the crime, and when they are running after committing the crime, so their images are being captured by the CCTV, which are being installed into the other buildings, not the scene of crime. So in such cases, I have seen in a number of cases where the prosecution have produced that CCTV camera. So here the only relevant fact was that these persons were present there at that moment of time and were running. So that relevancy has to be explained by the prosecution depending upon the context, depending upon the fact of the case.
So because for example, this was a practical case in which theft was committed in my area actually. So in that there were two CCTV footage of the same theft. One was recorded from house number 1 and one was recorded from house number 3, and both were produced in the court. Uh, so regarding that only, what will be taken into account by the court that
If you are talking about the house number 1 as the scene of crime, so that would be relevant because it will show that the accuser committed the crime. And if you are taking it from house number 3, again it will prove that accused were present at that moment of time near the house number 3. So it could explain their proximity to the scene of crime. So then the court will look into the other evidences to actually conclude that they have committed the crime. Right?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks to all of you. If still you have any questions.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Sir, I'm Advocate Dattatreya Dahinje from Pune, cyber law expert.
Yeah.
We
tell
met
me.
in GFSL, Gandhinagar, Gujarat.
Yeah, I remember. So how
Yes.
things are going on?
Everything is very fine, sir. And you have explained very beautifully regarding CCTV footage, how to record this and how to get the admissibility in the court of law. I'm very
Any
happy that
question you have?
sorry.
Any question you have?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have a question regarding timestamp, sir. How it is important and how can we measure it, and what would be the legal compliance and how it is produced before the court of law? How can we consider it as a digital evidence?
See, normally when the metadata is changed, timestamp is changed, it could be one of the factor when particularly that CCTV footage is altered. So if I am on the defense side and if that timestamp does not matches, I will ask the IO that why the timestamp does not matches. And if the IO cannot explain it, I will give a suggestion that it is correct to suggest that this CCTV footage have been manipulated or altered. And its remedy is that in case the timestamp does not matches, the prosecution must get the forensic examination, the forensic examination of that CCTV footage. So that's the way to go. Right? So there are two other questions. One question
Neeraj, my question is little bit of hypothetical scenario. Suppose there is a CCTV footage which was not taken by the prosecution at the time of investigation. Probably they were not aware of. And during the trial, it so happens that somebody reports that there was a CCTV available and prosecution wants to bring it on record. So how to go about it and what is the validity of it?
See, what is the very simple way is that they should go for further investigation under section 173A. They should seize it. They should record the statement of witness. They should get it forensically examined. They should file it in the court of.
Okay.
It's very simple.
Thank you so much.
So there are two other questions. Can frame rate of the CCTV footage be altered? Yes, it can be altered. It's very easy to do. Even there are devices, there are software by which you can alter the frame rate, right? So frame rate, even you can compare. If you go to that particular chip of that DVR, in the DVR, the frame rate would have been set. So when the original have been changed, then it is possible to verify the frame rate of the footage with the actual frame rate which have been set into that DVR. And there is another question regarding about the remotely data extraction. So now there are this is an inbuilt functionality which allows you to download a footage remotely through the internet. So that is now available in most of the CCTV cameras or the DVR. Okay, right. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you so much. Wish you happy Holi.
Thank you. Same to you.